is a process of decisions podcast. This is Trent Thomas, your recovery peer support specialist. Tonight's episode is entitled, Where is God in Recovery? Many ask, what is the very first step of recovery? The first step of any recovery, because the steps of recovery are the same, regardless of what you're recovering from, is called admission. Simply put, you can't solve a problem until you first recognize you have a problem. The first step of recovery is to admit you have a problem and what that problem is. This is unique to every individual, and that is why the first step, as in any plan, is the most crucial. The problem most often is confused with the symptoms. For instance, not paying bills is a problem, but the reason could be related to not going to work. That is a problem as well. But not going to work because you are too hungover from partying the night before is a problem as well. We then have to ascertain why this continues to happen night after night. The source of the problem must be established by asking, what can't I stop from doing? For many, when in a balanced state of mind, the ability to perform is not a problem. But once the mind is placed in a state out of balance, rational thinking goes out the door. This inability to make good, rational thoughts, once under the influence of mind-altering substances, is a common denominator of making bad decisions that forces us to suffer from devastating consequences. If we are to believe there is a God, then we must accept the existence of an alternate being many call Satan or the devil. This being is placed his total existence in contrary to man's existence. In other words, he exists to end the life of man. In fact, it is said he detests man and wishes all men dead. His extreme jealousy over man's existence has caused his extreme hatred for all men. His life mission is to kill all men and have man worship anything but the one true God. In order to follow his mission, he needs to deceive man and have man worship all things except God. By worshiping anything but the one true God, man assures his early, premature death. This being, or Satan, uses his ability to lie. In fact, he is the father of the lie. Since the lie is opposite the truth, Satan positions himself opposite God. Since God is truth and light, Satan represents the lie and darkness. In order to carry out his mission, he cannot force man to do anything. He must convince man to decide to follow him instead of God. To this end, he uses man's desires to trick him into following anything but the one true God. He is said to be the great whisperer, for he cannot force man to do anything, but he suggests or whispers in the ear of man. He plays on man's desires and presents choices that enable bad decisions, which yield severe consequences. He is the great deceiver, a liar opposite to God, who is truth. Any diversion from God is a lie. Since God is truth and light, this being sets forth a path with lies that leads to darkness away from the light of God. At his disposal is the potions and poisons that dull the senses and makes it easier to lead man into bad decisions. That coerces man into following him into darkness. These potions and poisons are commonly called drugs and alcohol. Once the senses are dulled, Satan then invokes the desires of man to have him travel deeper and deeper into darkness. The further one travels from light, the harder it becomes to find a clear path. The path of life is filled with potholes and obstacles that disable us, entrap us, ensnare us, and place us in endless quicksand pits that will eventually end our lives prematurely. Without light, we can wander aimlessly in the perilous world of darkness, running into one trap after another. Once we are lost in this trap, we are at the disposal of Satan, and he will use us to trap others into his world of darkness. Recovery begins when God sends a moment of sanity, a burst of light, so that we can see that we are in fact trapped in this world of darkness. God invokes a path of sanity in our insane world of darkness. We call this a save, where we are saved from ourselves and our bad decisions. We come to realize no one can harm us more than we have harmed ourselves. This moment of sanity presents a choice to save ourselves from ourselves. This may come as a sudden incarceration or even an overdose event, a family intervention, or the loss of a job, a sudden consequence that is devastating in its concept. This sudden consequence can invoke a need for change, a realization that life cannot continue on its present path. The harm makes it too painful to continue. Change becomes a better alternative. God's light shows us another path. A opportunity to do better presents itself. This sudden bright light gives us a new opportunity to ask for help from a power greater than ourselves. This cry for help, some call a foxhole prayer, is vital to our recovery. This prayer is recognition that we cannot save ourselves. This prayer is a call for intervention from a power greater than ourselves. God hears all prayers and immediately sends forth intervention for all sincere hearts that plead for help from their God. God is all forgiving and all powerful. He knows what we know not. You do not need to ask for the same thing over and over. He heard you the first time you asked. He sends help in his own time frame. His answer is already in motion. We just need to play our part. Once we ask for help, we should then thank God for his help because help is already en route. It's his plan and his time frame we all live under. Recovery is a process. In fact, it is a process of decisions. With this, the first step of recovery is to recognize we have a problem, followed by asking a power greater than ourselves for help from the lie-filled dark world we find ourselves in. We must then play our part and allow God to do what God does. Our recovery is dependent on us following instructions. We can only do what we know. We must learn from better teachers. In recovery, the best teachers are those with lived experience, those who have walked the walk and now are willing to talk the talk. Anyone can learn from their own mistakes. It takes a wise man or gal to learn from somebody else's. If you are in need of recovery from anything, I invite all recovery-minded individuals who are willing to participate in their own recovery to research the online peer support jumpstart treatment program at transnetrecover.com. Be mindful, only you can fix you. So if you know the fix is in you, then go to transnetrecover.com and join a success-driven jumpstart treatment program now. Thank you. And this has been another episode of Recovery is a Process of Decisions podcast.